This video is for folks, men and women, who are wannabe entrepreneurs, who want to build something in their lives by starting and taking the first step towards their career. My name is Omar Arshad. I'm the founder of Livera Vision. I create this free content based out of knowledge, experience that I've learned in the past 5 years. This video is special today because it's not for people who are already business owners. It's for people who want to be business owners, like young folks. What I want you to understand with wisdom is this thing. What is it? It's basically when you start a business, you get going, you think that now I'm going to build something. The first thought in your mind is that, who am I supposed to serve? Because a business is particularly always about solving a problem. So what you have to do is, when you want to solve a problem, you solve it for a particular group of people, right? That we call market. So there's a market, a particular group of people that we are solving this problem for. In here, what is important is to pick a market that's growing. That is the discussion of this entire video. When you get going, you want to start a business, you know this one thing, I guarantee you all that is left is effort and sacrifice from your end. Rest of the things are done. You always want to pick a market that is growing, right? So for example, some of you might tomorrow want to start a marketing agency. You pick a market, for example, plastic surgeons. You pick a market, doctors. You pick a market, roofers, plumbers, right? But all of these niches, you have to pick one group of people, one particular niche that you have to target to. But while picking that market, while picking that niche, what you have to keep in mind is if this particular market, if this particular niche is growing or not. That's it. And when I say growing, I mean that it's at least growing at a percentage of a general market. For example, let's say a market is growing. Let's talk about stock market. Stock market is growing by 9% per year. That means, let's take it in general. That means if you have to grow, or if you want to pick up a particular market that's growing, it must be growing by 9% every single year, that it reaches the level of maintenance. And when I say the level of maintenance, it means it's growing at its basic speed. Basic speed. Yes, basic speed. And if it actually wants to grow or reach the heights, then it has to grow past 9%. Well, definitely, the thing is that the percentage should be 9% plus X per year, where X is not zero. Simple maths. But the thing is that a market should be growing anyhow. Like, you don't try to be Elon Musk. You don't have millions and millions of dollars. You don't try to create something that people will want rather than solving a problem. When you step up into a market, all you have to keep in mind is I want to solve a problem of a particular group of people in a particular market that is growing. When I say growing, I mean there are competitors as well, there are contributors as well. You are supposed to solve one problem of that market. There are other people who are trying to solve other problems of that market. You don't get up and put yourself into a declining market because you're not Elon Musk, who has millions and billions of dollars, who can save a market alone. You want to start with solving a problem where you have contributors, eventually competitors, because most of the times what we think is that competitors are it's a bad thing. But I allow the concept of competitors because it makes you feel understood of the fact that there are other people as well. It gives you a surety, it gives assurance of the fact that if this market grows and you keep your product or service in line with whatever virtues or whatever principles of this particular market are, and you solve the problems of people accurately, you have a higher likelihood and chance of success. So when you have competitors, it's not about like, I have a competitor, I have to compete. No, obviously you have to compete. But the more important thing to understand is that I am lucky I have competitors because this market is growing. That's why I have competitors. That's why other person has stepped up into the market. If it was declining, no one would come. So the fact that there are competitors is also the fact that these people are acting as contributors. And you can't run an entity that is particularly or fundamentally based on contributors. So if you have contributors, eventually competitors, then understand the fact and get happy that I have competitors, which means this market is growing, which means there's a high chance of my success as well. Because if a market is declining After a certain point, people start to think about, bankruptcy or whatever. People exit, companies go broke, companies go bankrupt. And then what happens is that particular market falls down. And if you're trying to penetrate a market that's declining and you're trying to solve a problem for people who are in a declining market, then what happens is when the market declines, you don't get a chance to solve the problem because you have no competitors, eventually contributors, because everyone else is exiting, everyone else is getting out of the market. So you might as well pick a market that's growing. Now, getting back to the concept of growing after explaining, uh, uh, what is important is that, for example, let's think particularly stock market grows at 9% per year. So to reach at the basic level or to pick a market, when you are eventually picking a market, you have to keep in mind that it should at least grow at 10% per year while picking a market or an industry. Go research your thing wherever you want. Google, ChatGPT, from wherever you can get authentic information. See if this market is growing by 10% at least, or even at the percentage of general market, right? And if it's declining, then don't opt in for, because you're going to lose. Eventually, declining markets have been saved, but that's a complete different discussion. As I said, you're not Elon Musk, so not yet. Now, if you want to be, that's also a further discussion. But yet, you are not Elon Musk. So what you have to keep in mind is learn to pick a market. It's eventually the thing that it makes business easier for you, because business is hard enough. Markets shift and change quickly, so you might as well pick a market that's already growing, in spite of the fact that it's saturated or not. Another example, for example, if tomorrow you are in a growing market and you have a product that's plus, 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 and it's continuously growing as plus. Here's your product. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the product, and it's continuously growing. And then another person comes up, it steps up into your market, and it kicks you out of the market. You are now at loss. The important thing to understand is you have a competitor, he has kicked you out of the market, fine. But what you have to keep in mind is that it's a benefit, because if it was a declining market, you would not want to get back again and step again into the market. Since it's a growing market, you're going to work, you're going to put in the effort, you're going to put in the money, you're going to put your blood, sweat, and tears. You're going to create a product that'll beat his or all the other competitors. That's exceptional. And you're going to, again, eventually win. And all that hard work would be worth it. That's another benefit of a growing market. Right. So again, let's get back to the mathematics. A market that you're trying to pick should grow at least at the general percent. Should every year grow at the general percentage of other markets, while picking a market. And a particular niche or a particular industry, like if you're picking, honestly, those online coaches who are selling those gimmicky courses or shit, you might as well have a high chances of I can't guess that this market is gonna stay there for long. But for now, it's like it's a growing market. You can put yourself in if you have some ethical product. Honestly, I don't encourage people to sell info products unless and until you're not really a master or an expert like Jordan Peterson. And another thing that we got to keep in mind is a market either grows or it dies. There is nothing like maintenance. As I said, a market should grow at the general percentage of other markets. That means it is at the level of maintenance. If it doesn't grow concerning the level of maintenance every single year, then that means it's declining. I have a complete full-fledged video on the maintenance thing. You can go and watch it on my YouTube channel. You'll get an idea what I'm talking about. These are some few things that you need to keep in mind in order to be able to start a business and pick a market. But the whole point is that pick a market that's growing. If you want to pick a market that's declining, the declining market, what happens in a declining market is that your every single effort keeps getting hard. It keeps getting harder and harder and harder. And if you want to keep things easier for you, just step up into a market that's already growing. That's it. That's the whole point of this video. And if this video made you think differently or helped you in any way, I think that this video did its job. More importantly, I'm not a professional content creator. I just share what I have, what I defy. I just share what I represent and what I have built myself on. I don't sell any courses. I don't sell any gimmicky stuff, any info products, and neither will I ever. The purpose of this channel is just to help people, help young people out there to build something massive in their lives. Encourage them, motivate them, and eventually make them practically learn how to build something massive in their lives, and eventually conquer. And wish you all the best, all the success. See you in the next one.